Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the live reading from the 90s Diary of a Mess, written by Alex Sukhoy. Right, give it up! I don't know how many of you have written a book, but I haven't, so this alone is pretty impressive. If you get nothing else, this woman has a book. It's like a real book. Our kids won't even know what these look like. They'll be like, whoa, you used to have to read stuff not on a computer? Oh, anywho. So it's very exciting. We're going to have a good time tonight. Between reading depressing stuff, it's all going to be fun. So, Alex is going to read about her 90s journey, which, if you listen to the music tonight, that was the theme from that, right? There was one happy song and everything else was miserable. So that's the vibe we're having for the evening. But we also want to, I teach like now to kids who are in their 20s, and so they were like 8 in the 90s, so I make references to 90s stuff. They have no idea what I'm talking about, which is a shame because I love the 90s. And we encourage you to tell us what you love about it. We all have like that one 90s maybe memory. Maybe it was, that episode for me. I think about the episode of Seinfeld with Clitoris, the Dolores episode, because I was watching it with my dad. I'm a naive person, or root beer keg being my first keg to be an example. Very naive person, watching the episode with my father, poor man, and he was like, and she yells out, Dolores! And I was like, what does that rhyme with? And my dad goes, Clitoris. I was like, what's that? He's like, I'm done, up to your mom. Like, he answered one question, he tried to do his duty, and then he was like, if you don't know, I'm sorry. No, I don't. No, I was hoping for a boy. When you think of like 90s, whether it's TV, movie, does anyone have one moment that you're like, that's my 90s for me? Nice. Yeah.
Sort of the first time Seinfeld really registered on my radar. It was like that hour-long one with like Vandalay Industries.
Yes!
And the second spinner. And it just seemed so just on this completely different plane than like Who's the Boss and all those shows that were around at the same time. It just seems so stale.
You want to be my latex salesman.
Yeah.
That's the great line from that episode. What was?
Nirvana, Nevermind.
Oh! That's the one without the baby on the cover. This is my music knowledge, by the way, people. That's the Nirvana album without the swimming baby, right?
No, Nevermind is the
Oh, I thought that was Teen Spirit or something.
Neutral
It is
was not
on that album.
Oh, it's on that.
It is.
Oh. Yes! Is there a gallery owner in the back? Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just remembering in the 90s, those last days before I had a cell phone. Life without that.
Yeah.
Good life without that. We never knew we needed it.
And now, like, if you leave it at home for an hour, you get, like, itchy. You're like, oh, I need my phone. I need to check in that I'm at the mechanic. Which I've done before. Yes.
Dial-up.
Dial-up. Oh, the sound of dial-up. Our first thing was Prodigy. We had Prodigy. We didn't even have AOL. And you couldn't even choose your email addresses. They just signed you up. Mine was QTSP57A@prodigy.net.
So I have to ask a personal question. Your favorite 90s Madonna song? Spooky! Oh, it was 1990, yeah.
Holiday.
Holiday was not 90s.
No.
It was 80s.
True Blue.
How embarrassing.
Like a prayer.
Can you guess mine? It was movie related. Never gonna get it.
This used to be on like
Yes! Look at that! A League of Their Own final song!
You went to best
in the
90s concert.
Yeah.
For me, it was like 30 Boy Dog concerts that I attended. And today I woke up and I was just like, it'll be a good karma day because I got a personal note today from the lead singer of Boy Dog Pondering wishing me well, which was like, oh, what a good woman for today. So grateful for that. I was obsessed with that man.
On that note, I'd start this baby up.
Well, Deena, thank you so much for the introduction. And before I actually get started to the reading, there's some huge thank yous that are in the works because not every project takes 18 years to birth. This project took 18 years to birth. So first and foremost, Sarah, why are you in the back? There's Sarah. This is Sarah's gorgeous art. This is Sarah's gorgeous gallery. Thank you so much for opening up your arms and opening up your heart and having us here in your beautiful creative home. And please buy her art because it'll make your house happy. She's got one of the best energies of any human being I've ever met. So just through osmosis, if you purchase her art and hang it in your home, you will feel happy, I promise you. So thank you so much, and I'm just so honored to be your friend. You're beautiful. Deena, who wrote the final words to this book, but there's just way more around this. She wrote the final words, and when I asked her to do it, I knew that I needed some kind of an uplifting end to this book, because the truth is my writing is pretty dark and depressing and serious, just is. And I knew I needed a little bit of comic reprieve, and when I asked her to do the final words, I had absolutely no idea that she had a Chicago 90s connection. And she's going to tell you more about that. And Deena does improv, and she's like super, super talented. And as a personal thank you, this is only my second book reading in my entire life. My first was 2 months ago, I think. And I just want to thank you for like unshackling me from that, because I was terrified to do that. So thank you. I'm so grateful you're here. Art, where's Art? Raise your hand. He's raising his beer. So Art, this is a great little story. Thank you, Facebook. Art and I know each other since 4th grade, since the Reagan administration. And we both grew up in Skokie, Illinois together, and through Facebook found out we were Lakewood neighbors. And I got to meet his wife, Christine, and their great kids. And now they're like the family I spend every Christmas and Easter and every other event with. And Art did the cover, the beautiful cover to this book. And there's actually 2 covers. The Kindle edition has a completely different cover, and yet he still was able to capture the decade. And he's done all the covers on my books, and my website, my logo, and everything. And Art, I'm so glad you're here, and Christine, I'm so glad you guys are both here. You're like my family in Lakewood. You guys too, my 2 families in Lakewood. A couple of other quick shout outs. Jake Livschultz, who did the introduction to this book. Jake couldn't make it tonight. Jake lives in New York, and Jake went to NYU, and now he's an artist, and he also teaches history. And his wife is pregnant with their 2nd baby, and she's almost due, so he couldn't make it. But I'm so grateful to him. Jake and Art and I actually all went to high school together, and so that goes really, really back. And he knew me really well during the 90s. And I encourage you to read the introduction he wrote, because he sets the most brilliant political and economic context, and even the bookends, the historical bookends to what defined that one-of-a-kind decade. One other shout-out, no, maybe 2. I also need to do a shout-out to Jamie Ginsberg, who used to live here in Cleveland. One night, he's in California now, and one night on Facebook, it was like 3 a.m. here, and I'm typing away, and Jamie's in California, and I said, this book, it's called The 90s, but I have no idea what the rest of the title should be. And I had this long-winded, very just kind of self-interested title, and he said, just call it Diary of a Mess. And then he said the most beautiful thing. He said, we're all little piggies and we want to be in the mud with you. And I thought that was just absolutely terrific. And also, big shout out to Wesley, who is recording today. And Wesley and his beautiful fiancée, Simone, who's in Texas with her family right now, they did, who saw the book trailer? Who saw the book trailer? Thank you. I know at least 2 people watched the book trailer here. They came to my house on the Monday Memorial Day weekend, on a holiday weekend, and just told me what to do and what to read and how to show up. And they shot this just really intimate video with my face taking over the whole screen, which is so intimidating and frightening. But they concepted it, videotaped, directed it, edited, produced it, everything. I just showed up. And they were able to capture such a level of intimacy that you really have to trust people in order to make that happen. So I'm so grateful to you guys. And I met you guys through teaching at Tri-C. And you guys are also from New York. And Sarah went to college in New York and met Ellie in New York. And so there's this great Chicago, Cleveland, New York connection that made this book happen. And when I first wrote the pieces, which was in 1995, 1996, and 1997, my life was a total mess. And I think Diary of a Mess really sums it up well. But for all of those years, I just kind of held on to this without anybody ever seeing it, reading it. Nobody was allowed to touch it. Nobody even knew that I was writing it. I was this terrified of anybody actually knowing how I felt and what I thought. And 2 years ago was a really, really interesting time in my life, one of the most challenging times in my life too. And there was something that said, I was going through a hard time then, I'm going through a hard time now, maybe it's time to revisit the book. And so 2 years ago, I just sat down and I wrote this introduction, and I'm going to read the introduction to you, and then you're going to get the bookends, and then Deena is going to read the final words to you. So without further ado, these are words from the author. Like I said, I wrote this 2 years ago.